So if you had to give yourself a number between 1 and 10 of how prepared you are, what number would you give yourself? And I know this is sort of tough because it really depends. There's so many different variables in this. Depends on the disaster, depends on a bunch of different things. But just generally, what number would you give yourself? And as you watch this video, see if that number changes at all. In this video, I'm going to be going over some tips about how to become more prepared, having a well-rounded preparedness plan. A lot of times, as we try to get more prepared, we go out and buy something because it makes us feel a little bit better. We go out and buy some sort of bag or medical supplies or a ferro rod, things like that that make us feel like we're getting more prepared. But is it actually the best place we can spend our time and money? With that, let's go ahead and jump into the video.
Let's do this.
Don't fall for the master mentality. Don't assume, that you're so great at something that you don't have to work on it anymore.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
And I also see it as, don't get so focused on one thing, trying to get one thing done, that you're forgetting about everything else. There's some of us out there that have a leg up on everybody else. Some people have military experience. Some people went to school to be RNs, doctors, surgeons, electricians, engineers. I mean, some people just their lifestyle, their career sort of lends itself to preparedness. But all of them probably would tell you, all the ones I would listen to anyway, would tell you that they're always trying to get better. They're always trying to learn more because things change, life changes, technology changes, the people you work around change, you change. I mean, everything changes. So you're always looking to get better at those things that you do. But it leads me to being the jack of all trades. And that sort of is what I am, because I don't have that military experience. Like I said, some people do. Some people have that background. Me, I'm that jack of all trades type guy. I'm pretty good at a few things. Some things I need to get better at. But I think in a preparedness situation, it's suited for preparedness, because just because if you're in a smaller group or if you're alone, just because you're good at one thing doesn't really mean that increases your survivability. So I think that jack of all trades is sort of what we should thrive to be. All right, let's go over some tips that'll help you avoid becoming complacent and avoid overestimating your preparedness level. A few things you can do to ensure that you are on the right track to actually becoming as prepared as you possibly can be. So with this, the first one here is establish deadlines for all the important stuff. When you are in the middle of a survival scenario or any other major crisis, you'd better believe that all of your important tasking is going to have hard deadlines. When the weather is cold, getting worse, or the sun's getting low in the sky, you've got to have shelter, a fire going, pronto, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Likewise, when major trouble is coming down the turnpike, you need to be elsewhere if you want to stand a chance at getting a good outcome. No excuse will suffice. Make sure that you're establishing, hey, I want to get this done by this certain date. This is my goal for this. I want to make sure I learn, whether that's, storing food in 5-gallon buckets. I want to make sure and go to a first aid class this summer, a stop the bleed class or something like that. So all of that is, I think, really important, because in a survival situation, it's unforgiving. That is not the time to go, thinking that, oh, I've got this all figured out. And then all of a sudden you don't, and you've got to sort of, get things done on the fly. So at any rate, establish deadlines for all the important stuff, and make sure, something that you're working on, make sure you have goals in mind, make sure you have a time frame in mind, and don't make it the only thing that you think about. The next one here, and this is a really good one. Talk to real survivors of catastrophes and get their accounts. Lots of preppers who have never truly been tested in a disaster or some emergency, they have great ideas about how things will go and what they will do and how they'll generally work out. These have one thing in common, and they're generally completely whimsical. I mean to say that they're not grounded in reality, and the moment you think reality is not going to assert itself, or the fundamental beliefs aren't congruent with it, you're heading for a really bad time. And this is a really good point, because we see a whole lot of stuff on the internet from all these people giving us advice here and there. And everybody has got, something to say basically about everything these days, but you really don't. I mean, there's good people online and then there's bad people. There's people online that Selco comes to mind when you think about somebody that has went through a disaster situation. Even, friends, we're going to get into this in a second, but people that that have gone through hard times. Those are the people to talk to about this stuff. I want advice. If you've heard my podcast I did with Selco, I think Brian did a podcast with Selco as well. He talks about how it actually went down when they were in a siege type environment in the Balkans, and how the barter economy and how the criminal activity and all those different things happened. And you gain much more insight from situations like that than you do from some Joe Blow on the internet telling you how to do something that you don't know from Adam. So the next one I've got here is have trusted friends or mentors critique your skills and vulnerabilities. Everyone likes to think they're an ace or good at something, even if they are only truly good at one thing. But without a watermark or valid critique, what you can truly compare yourself against, you might be blowing smoke. If you have ever had someone let the air out of your tires before, so to speak, you're probably in for a rude awakening. When it comes to prepping for and other readiness related skills, all of us should strive to seek out truly trusted close friends and a mentor figure and have them give us a genuine critique. And like I said, this is what I was talking about with Kevin, with Brian, with all these people that may have a better idea about different aspects of preparedness than you do. Having that friend that can sort of teach you something or show you what you're doing wrong, that's where that comes in handy. Shooting comes to mind with me because, we go to the range, we sort of get in these habits of how we do things, how we draw, how we, whatever it is. And then if you have an instructor there with you, he's going to watch every little thing you do and give you some hopefully constructive criticism on what you should change. Whereas if we don't have that friend or that instructor telling us what to do, we're going to continue and do it the same way that we're comfortable doing it. And this goes with everything with preparedness, how you do your food storage, how you do a lot of different things. So it's always important, I think, to have that, anytime you can get that outside criticism. And it doesn't just have to be somebody it could be somebody online that knows what they're talking about and is not going to just blow smoke. And they're out there along with them. There are also a lot of people out there that are just out there to scare you and blow smoke and all that stuff. So, all right. So the next one on this list here, and this is a pretty good one as well. And this one is most preppers have never truly experienced a full-blown disaster or catastrophe. And this is what talking about, talk to somebody who's actually been through this stuff. Now, nobody's been through a major disaster. Daily emergencies, yes. Small-scale disasters, probably also yes. But huge regional foundation rattling disasters, no. Thankfully, no. But that does nothing to help prepare them for facing their own. Luckily for us, there's a way to start inoculating ourselves against the chaos and the surreal shift in perception that is attendant with destruction on a massive scale and all of the second and third order effects that accompany it. Go volunteer and help out at a site of a major disaster. Do whatever you can think of to assist. You can also talk to, go take classes and talk to the instructors, talk to the people that have been through situations like that. And you can gain, at least a better idea about it. But those type of situations can help you out in a disaster because you can kind of go back and reflect on those situations and figure out, wow, that was a little bit more stressful than I thought it was going to be.
To perform an emergency tracheotomy, I'm going to need a glass of vodka. Vodka? Do you know what you're doing? Technically, no, but I've been doing some research and I feel fairly confident I know how.
I didn't expect this to, I didn't expect there to be that much blood.
Oh my God, that's a lot of blood. Oh my God.
I didn't expect it to be that hard to stop the bleeding. All of those things could be things that you'd learn a lot from. So at any rate, I think that's a really good one. Help out after disaster strikes. All right. So the next one I've got here is understand the human enemy. And I think, to me anyway, this is the most important. Well, this is on the top of my list. I don't want to say most important because they're all important, but in a similar vein to volunteering for disaster relief efforts, as a sort of method to understand a threat, we should also strive to understand the human threat that even one of us could potentially face day in and day out. From the violent opportunistic criminals to the truly vile mongrels that are ever lurking in the darkest corners of our world and sometimes right in the pews next to us at church. Don't judge a book by its cover, basically. These days, you can, we just don't know what that person is like. Criminals, they love to brag. They love to talk about what they're doing, how they did it, all that different stuff. Not the smartest tools in the toolbox, but they love to brag. So you can gain insight from them why they do certain things they do, how they do certain things they do. We can find out a lot of that information on the internet as well, and sort of know your enemy, I suppose. With me, I think of it in a shtf type situation, sort of the same thing where people are going to devolve into that, worried about me, myself, and my family. I've got to take care of myself. I know people like to believe that people inside are totally good and they're going to be helpful in disasters, kind of like what we were just talking about. And in some cases, that absolutely is true. In smaller scale situations where it's feasible to go out and help people, it's not that complete dire situation. There are going to be people that are going to be helpful. We are going to be people that are going to be helpful and trying to get everything back together. If it is something that there is no end in sight, I don't know so much about that. And I think people, when they start to see that there's no end in sight, that's when they start to devolve into that primal sort of, I've got to take care of me, I've got to take care of my family, and I've got to do it by whatever means necessary. And I think that's where the danger comes in, because when there's law and order, when there's rules, chaos is sort of reined in. But when none of that is around, that whole can of worms is just going to open up and people are going to be fending for themselves. So sort of along that, understanding how those turds behave now is good to know, because you're going to know what some of these quote unquote good people are going to turn into in the future. So got one more here. And this is, I think maybe this is the most important one other than the other one. But by training and experience, not stuff. And as you'll notice, as I was going through this, not once did buying stuff get mentioned. If there's one thing that all preppers love, it's buying new stuff, new gear, new equipment, new supplies, stuff, things, and gubbins. Trust me, I'm not living in a glass house here because I'm the same way. Call it an abundance of material preparation or just retail therapy. I'm probably guilty either way. However, this is yet another trap of complacency that preppers fall into, because it is entirely too easy to actually believe that we can buy skill, or that we can buy hardware solutions to problems that will only be solved by sophisticated mental software. To put it another way, the tools don't matter if you don't have the skills and experience to use them. And I talk about this all the time. We need the stuff. We need the different supplies. We need the bug out bags. We need maybe the solar setups and all that. But we need the skills more. And the more skills we have, the more valuable those tools are going to be. A scalpel in my hand, well, a scalpel in my hand could be a little bit dangerous, but it's going to be a whole lot different. A scalpel in a surgeon's hands is going to be a whole lot different than in my hands. Heck, even in Lisa's hands, she's going to know a lot more about how to use that. And that's because she's taken the time, or doctors and surgeons have taken the time to learn those skills, so they really know how to use those supplies, those scalpels or whatever. People in the military that go through basic training or have been in the military for a long time really understand the firearms aspect of it, or the tactical aspect of everything. So it is that I call them force multiplying skills, because it takes all the skills you have, takes those supplies and makes them even stronger. But training and experience, that's, you know, that is I think the number one prep, because you can have all the stuff, and all the stuff is important, the food storage, the water storage. But when you're in a situation that may be, you know, some sort of large scale situation, you're going to want to be able to think your way through that. You're going to want to be able to navigate through that, sort of MacGyver your way through that. If you're in a bug out situation, there's going to be a lot of mental gymnastics going on, trying to stay out of trouble and you know, sidestep things. And the stuff in your bag is fantastic and it is useful, but nothing beats having a you know, knowledge weighs nothing, like they say, right?
Let's get out of here.
All right, so has your number changed? Maybe it hasn't. You know, a lot of you probably, the number hasn't changed that much because either you've already implemented some of these, you're working on implementing some of these steps, or it's just so hard to tell from one disaster to another how much you're prepared for. But I think it is, you know, all of these things are really important in formulating that well-rounded preparedness plan and putting your energy where it's going to affect your ability to survive anything the most. A majority of these tips in this video were mental. Were about learning and growing as a person, and regardless whether a disaster strikes or not, doing these things is just going to make you a better person. And then afterwards, you know, the supplies come in and the gear. It's inescapable. We need the food, we need the supplies, we need the bug out bags, we need all those things. But there's so much around the edges of all that that is important in preparedness and survival, that while those things are necessary, they're not the be-all, end-all. And I think that's the whole point I was trying to make with this video is think about all the other things, especially if money is tight. You know, that these are things that you can do that are going to help you become better prepared. And you don't need, you know, a few $100 to spend extra on preparedness. You can do these things other than maybe taking classes and stuff and getting instruction. But you can do a lot of these things without any money. Some would even argue, and I'm one of them, that taking these classes is money better spent than on some of the supplies that we tend to, you know, get on Amazon and buy the things that we quote unquote need. Having the classes and all of those things could be more important. So at any rate, I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this. If you liked the video, make sure and hit the thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed, make sure and subscribe to the channel. But with that, take care and prepare, everyone. We will talk to you all later.